In 2018, Super Smash Bros. Melee appeared at the Evolution Championship Series, the biggest tournament in fighting games, for the very last time. Alongside Melee and Smash 4, there were 6 traditional fighting games on the roster. They covered a bunch of different kinds of fighting games. You had your 2D, your 3D, your anime, your tag fighters, your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, and whatever the hell Injustice 2 was. But they all had one thing in common that Smash games lacked.
Take this! Know your place!
Supers. And no, not Super Smash Bros. Melee, you got my ass, shut up. Supers have been a part of fighting games since 1992, when SNK included a mechanic called Desperation Moves in 1992's Art of Fighting. These moves could only be used when players were at low health, a comeback mechanic to keep games interesting even when the opponent had a huge lead. If that sounds familiar, by the way, that is exactly what Terry's Go mode in Ultimate is based off. Pretty soon, supers became a mainstay in traditional fighting games. Usually tied to a resource like a meter, super moves are flashy both in appearance and utility. Often they're extremely damaging attacks, but also with some risk attached to using them. There's actually a world where Melee would have been a part of this crowd too. The Smash series got its first supers in Brawl in the form of Final Smashes. These are fighting game style supers with cinematic activations and all the bells and whistles. In an interview, Sakurai actually confirmed that they were working on Final Smashes as early as Smash 64, saying that they had even gone so far as to record voice clips that could be heard if you hack into the game files. And a lot of them sound like Final Smash voice lines from Brawl, it turns out. Given that Giga Bowser wound up being Bowser's final Smash in both Brawl and Smash 4, it's fair to wonder if they would have implemented something like Final Smashes in Melee if they had more than 13 months to ship the game. Even though Final Smashes have been around for 3 games now, their appearances in competitive play have been very few and far between. Join me today as I dive into that history and show exactly why supers in Smash Bros. Melee just haven't caught on in the way they have in traditional fighters. Thank you to my good friends at Into the AM who have paid to be mentioned in today's video. Into the AM is a team of artists and creators that's been outfitting your passion since 2012, and they have your gifts covered this holiday season. If you're shopping for anyone who loves comfort, design, quality, or all 3 of these things at once, Into the AM is honestly the move. I'd like to think I'm pretty transparent about how I handle sponsors on this channel, and Into the AM was the very first brand who's ever worked with me, so I have a ton of respect for them, and I love that I've been able to maintain this partnership for several years now. I quite literally wear Into the AM every single day, and I even knew about their brand long before we began working together, so this is as much of an endorsement of their clothing as I can give you. For this holiday season, they're going to be running a solid site-wide discount alongside gifts under 20 bucks, so it's a great way to grab some premium tees or pants or Hawaiians or just about anything. You can use my promo code WALT at checkout or go to intotheam.com/WALT to get 10% off, which is on top of any sale they may be running. And using that link also affords me a small commission, so thank you for that. Also, this is going to be my last collaboration with them for the year, but I'm really, truly looking forward to working more with Into the AM in 2026, and I know they'll be releasing even more amazing clothing. Thank you once again to Into the AM for supporting me and the channel. Happy holidays, and I hope you enjoyed today's video. Okay, massive disclaimer, you can say you got my ass in the comments, whatever, but you sort of can use a Final Smash in Melee, by which I mean you actually can play as Giga Bowser. Woostunes made a fantastic video on some tournaments that were held during the pandemic when people figured out how to play as Giga Bowser on Slippy, and it's well worth the watch. Giga Bowser is certainly, definitely a top tier, but in a very, very weird way, because it's not just because he's Giga Bowser. The thing is, he is not clearly better than Fox, which is also pretty funny. Final Smashes were a pretty tough sell for the competitive Brawl community though. Just like with Melee's competitive scene, most Brawl competitors craved a version of Smash with less variance. And unfortunately, Final Smashes, as implemented in Brawl, are variance factories. Forget a meter. To use a Final Smash, you have to break a Smash Ball. One of these things. Give me that. Give me that. No, okay, whatever. It's an item, which is already a terrible start, and it spawns with 30 HP. This number changes in future Smash games for the record, but then it loses health at a rate of 2 HP per second. So it's not necessarily enough to hit it. You have to hit it with a high enough damage move at the right time. It also stops losing its own health once it hits 2.5 HP, so it's not like you can hit it and then try to keep your opponent away until it breaks for you. Oh yeah, and it's also randomly moving across the screen the whole time, like a cat, like going for a laser pointer. Good luck getting it. Good luck getting it. Yeah, it's annoying to get. Perhaps we could have accepted this incredibly random way of accessing Final Smashes if they were well balanced across the cast, but they absolutely were not. Some, like Marths and Zeldas and Sheiks, just delete stocks, whereas others, like the one where Jigglypuff gets big on him, covers a huge area of effect, but are pretty easy to avoid and don't really hit as hard as you'd like. Now look, a lot of these were pretty clearly designed for free-for-all gameplay, and some of them make way more sense on some of the bigger stages we don't use in competitive play. Even with those factors in mind, Brawl's final smashes are a mess when it comes to balance, even though I have to acknowledge some of them have a ton of personality. Like, why did they make Luigi do this? Like, what is the lore of this? This doesn't make any sense. Okay. The Brawl scene pretty quickly decided to ban final smashes, which wasn't a tough thing to get the community on board with since we were already banning items in the melee scene anyway. It's not like any serious tournament wanted to force players to chase down the orb of randomness just to get access to an already unbalanced and often broken super attack, right? Right? Well, for most fighting games, EVO 2008 was the single most serious tournament of the year. American fighting game legend John Choi won both Street Fighter II Super Turbo and Capcom vs SNK 2, fully establishing himself as one of the genre's GOATs. Justin Wong, another GOAT, won one of his record 9 EVO championships in the Marvel vs Capcom 2 bracket. And then there was Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Okay. Smash was not yet seen as a serious fighting game by most traditional fighting game players at the time, even though it had appeared as a main game already. That was at EVO 2007, one of the highest profile Smash majors of all time up until that point, which is where Ken reestablished his dominance despite taking a loss to some upstart kid named Mango. He ran through losers to win the tournament, eventually taking it over Hugs in grand finals, and it's so funny to me that Hugs got second place at this tournament still, but whatever. EVO 2007's rules were pretty standard competitive Smash stuff. No items, mostly Fox, mostly Final Destination, you get it. But EVO 2008 would move from Melee to Brawl. Since all the other fighting games played at EVO had supers, why not use the new supers from Smash's newest entry also? How bad could it possibly be? And you know what? Screw it, put items on also, because they really just said f it. But despite the change in game and rules, Ken was back to defend his title, with most competitive players choosing not to spend the money to go all the way to Vegas just to get Final Smash out of the competition. It was expected that he'd have a pretty free ride to the final bracket. There had, of course, been a little bit of exploration of this meta in the weeks leading up to the event, and it turned out Ken's old standby in Marth had a pretty powerful tool in this meta. He has one of those insta-kill final smashes, at least on the relatively normal-sized stages used in this rule set. Yes, yeah, you saw that. They're playing on Skyworld. I didn't say they were normal stages, just normal-sized, okay? The thing is, a move like Marth's final smash is only useful if you can hit it. And it turned out Marth could combo into his final smash off of a falling forward air. So yeah, I think that's useful. Ken had a pretty much free ride to grand finals, but there was one thing he hadn't considered: robots. A lot of the theory crafting was looking at characters like Snake and Falco, great characters in their own right that also had busted final smashes. Falco, like Fox, had the Landmaster and was the superior option to Fox otherwise thanks to his access to a stupidly broken down throw chain grab in Brawl. And Snake turns the game into a third-person shooter. He gets to chuck grenades at his opponent, which doesn't sound all that different, except this time he's offstage and totally invincible. But Rob's final smash in Brawl is completely insane. Rob becomes invincible and a weak hitbox appears in front of his eyes. Randomly, a much more powerful laser will fire, dealing a ton of damage. Between the passive hits and the laser, it's possible to deal upwards of 250% damage with one singular final smash. And that's not even the craziest part. Rob gets access to his entire moveset other than neutral special while his final smash is activated. What that means is he can just grab any attempt to shield it and then rack up the passive damage while the opponent is grabbed. And then the laser kills. And then you win. So, unsurprisingly, Ken's opponent in grand finals was a Rob player. It was a 14-year-old kid by the tag of CPU who just happened to be in Vegas for the weekend. This kid knew how to wield his final smash, and it was the game changer in the sets against Ken. Item luck was definitely not on Ken's side in the second and third games. He died trying to pick up a hammer in game 2, and also SD bonked his head because of the way the bunny hood messes with jump heights. It was a deeply Looney Tunes game, and the way CPU finished Ken off with a final smash only added to the cruel irony. And then they played a singular match for a $742 grand prize with items and final smashes on, and CPU hit what is quite literally the most valuable bumper combo of all time. I'm just gonna let the combo play.
Sentinel means business, everybody. Oh, he can set the bumper in a good spot. Wow! What a shot! CPU!
So as a channel that covers like competitive Smash as a whole, I really want to preface this and say the problem isn't that a 14-year-old kid who never played competitive Smash before or since in his life won this tournament, although I wouldn't say it's not a problem. That final match was actually pretty watchable. It was entertaining as hell. The explosive combo with the bumper is exactly what people who advocate for items on Smash want to see. The problem is that legalizing things like this also leads to gameplay like this. This is Dwin vs SK92 from earlier in the EVO 2008 bracket. SK92 won game 1 and was looking like he was going to cruise to a 2-0 victory. But then Dwin, picking Sheik, found the exact same combo that Ken was riding to success with Marth, a falling forward air into one of those delete final smashes. And that's exactly when SK92, a great Falco player in Melee as well as Brawl and Project M, locked in. And by locked in, I mean he went to Jungle Japes and chain grabbed the shit out of Dwin to death twice before laming him out with the Landmaster and finally taking the last stock. It was not what anybody would call beautiful Smash, but with the tools available, it sucks, but it's absolutely the right way to play it. That's why no serious tournament organizer ran a rule set like this ever again. There wasn't much of a movement to play with final smashes in Smaforsh. Some of the weirder ones from Brawl were reined in a bit, but there were still the same balancing problems. More importantly, there was still the same problem that the only way to use them was through the Smash Ball item. This problem was finally resolved in Smash Ultimate, which added something players had been theorizing about since the introduction of Final Smashes back in Brawl, a Final Smash meter. Okay, we have some potential here. The randomness of Smash Ball spawn timing and location was gone, and you wouldn't have games where one player would get 5 or 6 Final Smashes in a row. The metered Final Smashes were also a bit weaker than the standard ones, making them feel not quite as game warping. Obviously, prior experience with Final Smashes had people skeptical, but for a lot of players, it felt worth a shot, I guess? Unsurprisingly though, it never took off as a widespread competitive format. Final Smashes are just still too imbalanced, and even with nerfed ones, there were still some that had absurdly strong combo potential and would have been problematic. There are some that were problems even without the threat of combos too. I'll show you one pretty soon because every now and then you'll see a tournament organizer run something featuring Final Smashes as like a side bracket or a fun once in a blue moon rule set mix-up for the sake of just having some fun. Towards the end of 2024, Hungrybox ran a Final Smash meter tournament as a part of his Coinbox Ultimate series, and it actually delivered on some peak Ultimate cinema. Primarily an insane losers top 8 qualifier match between Spargo and MKLeo that saw both players hit some nutty whiff punishes with their Final Smashes. But at the same time, this tournament definitely exposed the problems with the Final Smash meter. The meter slowly fills just through the passage of time, which incentivizes players to run away and let the meter charge up if they have a lead, only making the campy play that characters like Sonic were already utilizing to great effect. To nobody's surprise, 2 of the final 3 players remaining in this coin box were the 2 best Sonic players in North America, Sonics and Wrath. Sonic's Final Smash is actually pretty tame compared to the rest of the cast, but anything that strengthens Sonic's already problematic runaway game is really bad, like it's a pretty bad issue. But waiting for Wrath and Losers Finals was Ling, one of North America's top Peach players. As pointed out in Hungrybox's stream, Ling is the kind of fiend who also played in the official Nintendo Online tournaments, which often had wacky rules like crazy stages or items on, or yes, Final Smashes. He also played a character that is both strong in the vanilla rule set and has an absolutely broken Final Smash in Peach. How good was it? Well,
it's wow. There's the S smash.
Look, did you see that?
It's so broken, dude. You literally could just
drop to
press
his death.
B at any time, and it's a good option. It's never a bad option to press B anytime.
Oh my god. We're glowing! A B. And look at that. And now you come back down
Big
with
drifts.
meter. And GG.
Oh, lol.
That's game. Oh wait.
You got hit by the umbrella, dude.
Look at this. Look how broken this is. And you're at 0%.
Goodbye.
Why not just get the Final Smash?
No, I was SD right here.
Just get Final Smash.
Okay.
Wait. Yeah, I don't think SD. Why don't you press it?
Okay.
Oh, can Sonic buffer it? There must be a meta
He's
I
dead.
don't know about.
Oh
Yeah.
my god, and restore
It's okay,
60.
you have to work really hard for that.
Jeez, it's so good.
Jeez Louise.
It's so good. It covers everything, restores your HP, nearly guarantees a kill, covers the entire stage. What were they thinking? What the f were they thinking?
Wait, what's the difference with the Smash Ball?
Oh,
They
he
sleep a lot
saved
longer,
the
I
jump
think.
the
They
whole
sleep
time?
longer? I
think so, yeah.
I honestly haven't
Incredible
noticed.
resource
Boy.
management.
It seems like she has time to get her fully charged smash attack regardless.
Huh. It would be a damn shame for Sonics if this meter came out and Peach just took the game, huh? It was Stitch. Oh! Use it! Oh! No way!
Yeah.
What? And he got balls
He's
up?
dead.
Oh, the spring!
No, he doesn't
What?
spring.
Oh, Stitch!
I thought he already had. I thought he was
Double Stitch.
That means to my friend.
Yeah, the Sonics had found one good bit of counterplay to this broken Peach final smash that just puts you to sleep no matter where you are. Sonic's up B grants him a small amount of invincibility, and if they could time it perfectly, maybe, just maybe, they could get through. But otherwise, it wasn't only a kill, but a free 60% heal for Peach. Just completely game warping stuff, and Ling used it to run through the last 3 sets of the tournament in 9 dominant games. While I won't say the rule set has no merits whatsoever, that layover Spargo set was hot, you really should watch it, Ling demonstrated perfectly why in their current state, Smash Supers just don't really have any place in the competitive scene. Smash already has enough of a problem with uninteractive playstyles that are overly powerful. The final Smash meter just exacerbates that problem, powering up old villains and introducing new ones in the process. But I'd also say there's still time for supers to find a home in the platform fighter genre. They're a thing in Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2, but you don't see them all that often in competitive play despite being invincible and fairly strong. It's just that as far as ways to spend your slime meter go, spending all 3 bars on supers tends to not be as strong as using 2 bars for a slime burst to escape a combo or survive a big hit, or even 1 bar for a slime cancel to extend a combo and potentially take a stock. Combo Devils, currently in development, also has a system with EX moves and supers a la Street Fighter, but I wonder if it's going to have the same problems. But honestly, I don't think supers solve any major problems that the platform fighter genre faces. The way stocks can be taken at literally 0% makes it so that Smash doesn't really need any help from a mechanic like supers to make comebacks possible. You really don't need to give players a wake up level 3 when stuff like back throw shine and up throw rest are always on the line. So yeah, there's a world where Melee would have had supers, and that's okay. I don't really think we're missing that much. Thanks for watching. Hey, thanks so much to my top tier patrons and YouTube members, Avishua Stein, Bobby Wasabi, Brent Mukai, Carter Roberts, Dark Genix, Eric is Cool, Gustavo Cantu Fernandez, James Fabman, Justin Duncan Mills, Kyle Carlin, Marshall Bradley, and Sam Wright.